You started as a accountant at PwC.
During that period then, as technology was becoming an ever bigger part of Silicon Valley.
Maybe a recent success story.
But they don't like aspects of sales.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Reporting Norms, where we talk about financial reporting, business matters, consulting, and anything related to business activities, and certainly AI. Today, I have a guest, a very special guest, someone that I've known for a number of years. I'd like to introduce him to you. His name is Edward Thomas Kennedy IV, ETK4, we'll go by short. He's a seasoned business executive specializing in technology, consulting, strategy, and growth leadership. He currently serves as vice president of business development at Livefront, a digital product consultancy renowned for crafting high-impact mobile applications and digital experiences that people love. At Livefront, Ed spearheads nationwide growth initiatives connecting innovative brands with expert strategists, designers, and engineers to create exceptional digital products. His decade-long tenure at Slalom Consulting as senior sales director and managing director saw him leading growth, marketing, and strategy initiatives across Northern California, growing the firm's consulting practice by an order of magnitude and enhancing its reputation in digital transformation and partner collaboration. Ed's extensive leadership experience also includes growth and delivery roles at IBM and Scient, where he competed with a well-known competitor, Accenture, where at the time his father, who would be known as ETK Senior or ETK3, because you're ETK4, you actually competed with your dad, just happened to be the office managing partner of Northern California. So that's an interesting scenario there. But earlier on in Ed's career, he started at PricewaterhouseCoopers, actually where Ed and we worked together for a number of years, and he began as a staff and then senior accountant before his pivot to dispute analysis and corporate recovery. He's also ventured into the health and wellness as well as public education arenas to drive needed change, applying his business and technology skills to improve their systems and outcomes. From an educational standpoint, Ed earned his Bachelor of Business Administration in Accounting from the University of Notre Dame. He became a CPA in California and followed it up with an MBA at Stanford University's Graduate School of Business, where he served within their alumni consulting team program, providing pro bono strategy consulting to Bay Area nonprofits. So Ed is known for his passion in growing insurgent consulting businesses that serve clients better than the status quo. Eddie leverages his deep expertise to foster new relationships, strategic partnerships, and growth opportunities in the digital technology and now AI sectors. So welcome to the program, Ed. Good to see you, and thank you for being here today.
Likewise. Thanks, Norman. Appreciate that intro, and great to be here.
Excellent. Well, you've been doing consulting for a number of years now. You started as a accountant at PwC, but you pivoted to technology consulting and digital product development in this industry. Maybe you could just start off with what you're doing at Livefront and maybe how you've come to this journey to where you are today.
Yeah, that's great. So I guess it goes back to growing up here in the Bay Area, not from a single digit age, but moved out here starting high school. And at the time, Silicon Valley certainly had technology companies, semiconductors and software was starting to go. But it was still a lot of apricot and cherry farms at the time. And I actually had high school friends who would wrap up the school day and go work the farm. But during that period then, as technology was becoming an ever bigger part of Silicon Valley, it was just to see, one, they're doing new things. So it was kind of cool. And then just the value created in what the technology and what these digital products do, but also then, of course, and if you look at the prices of housing here, just the value of the companies that were created here. So that's kind of the interesting technology. And then in consulting, you're always on the leading edge of what is needed for clients to be successful. And I appreciate that notion of working with clients on what's next. So I think that that is kind of what led me there. Of course, as you mentioned, perhaps it's in the blood, as my father's whole career was at one company, which ultimately was called Accenture. And I did, though. I love the accounting and reporting norms. That was great. But the notion of not looking back, but looking ahead and helping people go into new places was exciting. And that's actually, so with Livefront, it's the same thing. Livefront is a company that has done excellent work for 20 plus years, but it's remained relatively regional in terms of what it's done. So now there's this opportunity to really take it to many more companies throughout the country, and that's what I'm excited about there.
Okay, so when you say regional, was Livefront more known in the Midwest or the East Coast, and you're sort of trying to expand the consultancy to more of the West Coast now, or is that sort of your mission?
Yeah. Let me explain that. Yeah, so they're based in Minneapolis. We're based there. So that is where a large amount of the work has been concentrated, but working in other parts as well. And then, of course, and maybe we'll get to this later, but the world kind of changed when remote work was actually required. And then what that happened is it kind of changed the ability to serve clients out of region. When I was at Slalom, the whole notion was, we're local, we're in your community with you, we'll be there, every Monday through Friday. We're not putting people on planes who hate all that. So that was like a really great model for both the client and our people. But each office had to be opened up to create, that next local model. Whereas, again, that's all changed. So now there's an ability to get the best talent from wherever and have them work, with the clients that are interested in that talent.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, the COVID in 2020 definitely did change things in that regard quite a bit. So as you work remotely and as a consulting leader and strategist and working with businesses, helping them grow, what do you find to be the most effective way that you have found to get to know your clients, understand their pain points, helping them through addressing some of their challenges? Maybe you could describe how you do that, and maybe a recent success story or even one from Slalom that you'd like to share.
Sure. So it starts, it's building relationships, and some of these may be relationships that you already have, but it may be new relationships. In both of those, what matters is just some of the fundamentals about trust and communication. And it usually starts with trust, of me or whomever is initiating the relationship, if it's a new one. And then trust in who's behind and who's going to be part of delivery in that way. And then, so that's part of it. And then communicating. And it's really this notion seeking to understand, because, if for some people, like the notion of sales, they don't like that word. And I've always loved it. And I consider sales is the lifeblood of any company. You need sales to thrive. So it's important, but they don't like aspects of sales or sales experiences that they've had. So, but it's that seeking to understand what someone is interested in, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, and then seeing if we might or might not be able to help in that way. Now, one other thing that happens in consulting is there's a handoff, because those who are involved in generating new relationships, new business, are not necessarily those involved in delivering on that, right? So now you're meeting several people, and again, that trust has to be there. But working together as a team, you can really develop some terrific relationships. So, I mean, kind of everywhere I go, and what I'm doing presently is still based upon that Norman. So I was just at a conference last week, great conference focused on medical devices and focused on digital health. And again, an area, and this is for startups through companies that are about to go commercial. And that was meeting all sorts of people. I went there not knowing a whole lot of people, but knew it was important to talk to them about how are they developing the user experience for those who are using their devices, and the way in which I went about talking to people, again, listening to them, but also they want to hear, what do you do? And that was through storytelling. So I had a particular story that I thought was relevant from one of our clients at Livefront. And I probably told that story, 15, 20 times while I was there, to see how that resonates, because it allows someone to reference what they know to what we're talking about. So that's a bit. And then maybe the last thing is, then personal relationships do develop. And there are people who have been clients multiple times in my career, when they're at a different place or I'm at a different place. And that's just the nature of how things move. And, some of these folks that you consider personal friends, and others just want to be in a business relationship, and whatever works best for that person is, just fine.
Okay. That makes total sense. The trust and understanding their pain points through storytelling. In fact, I've always remembered you as a great storyteller. So maybe you don't have to share that specific story, but how important is storytelling when it comes to explaining, what you are thinking, or making the issue or possible solution more relatable to your client or potential client?
Yeah.
Because I think that sounds like you said, people don't like sales, but if they fall in love with the story, or your story resonates with them, even though it really is sales related, that notion tends to go away. So maybe you could describe, what's worked for you from a storytelling standpoint.
Yeah. So maybe I'll share a couple. So one is this was a big opportunity. It was almost, so we had some relationships. I had some relationships, but this was what went out to an RFP, right? Which is a request for proposal, where they were asking a lot of different companies to share their ability to deliver on something. And then, of course, what it's going to cost and timing and all those other factors that go into that. But in that case, we were responding to that, and we were in the room, and it's a buying group from the client and then my team, and we have several people there. But what we had done in that case was went a little bit off script. And what I had done is put together a video, and what it included was me sharing a personal story about how my father had been helped by this company's product. And that was just a way it was beyond. And I could see the procurement person in the room was not happy about this off script thing. But I know from the others, that was kind of the difference that was made in, just going beyond, like, okay, this is someone who maybe we can develop a relationship with.
Okay. Who did you say was unhappy in the room?
The procurement person who wanted to keep the process, as it was designed, not hey, don't like take the time of my people watching your video.
Gotcha. I see. That's good. So you brought it kind of personal. Definitely
Yeah,
brought it to a personal level. Um,
that's one example. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
You
I
had
can one other one I'll share
yeah
with you,
yeah
and
please
then this is just how it goes. And this is talking a little bit from a sales standpoint, because you never know when you're going in, what the outcome is going to be, and that's why some people don't like sales, particularly like consulting sales, further because you're not coming in with a product and with specs. You're coming in with an offer to create some outcome, or who knows, like within certain
sure
bounds. So you have a bounds that you're in. But
yeah
this is what I call sales bingo, where it was telling a story, and in this case, it was a company outside of their industry, but it was talking through how they had developed a certain type of dashboard that was giving them information and insights, that they just hadn't had before. But we had been going, for a while, and then just that single word dashboard, boom, all of a sudden that caused everything to make sense. The curiosity opened up, et cetera. And that led to what was ultimately, multi-million dollar, multi-year relationship. And it was just by telling a story that had a particular word that resonated.
I see. And was that meeting was it a face-to-face meeting, or was it like a Zoom meeting, or did you actually meet face in sort of in real life?
That was in-person meeting.
In person? Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
And it was also leveraging a relationship. In fact, it was a Stanford GSB relationship. And, like networking is part of what we all do. And, in that case, it was probably a favor of like, hey, a fellow alum, I need to, grab a meeting with him. And it turned into something great for both companies.
Yeah, that's awesome. In the intro, we talked about digital products or digital experiences that customers love. Um,
Mm-hmm.
from your experience and the different projects that you've worked on, what do you think makes a project or a digital product or project um, that people love versus people find exceptionally that they find it exceptional? They love it more than they've ever seen anything else before. What
Mm-hmm.
do you think makes that difference in your view?
Yeah, I guess what I would say is, well, from the experience side, I think what we're talking about, if something is truly exceptional, it means that it's just like whatever the experience is, it solved a specific, problem or use case, as it's called. Like when you go to a website or to an app or whatever, you usually have a thing in mind that you want to do. Like logging in is not what you're looking to do, right? Like that's a step to getting there.
Yeah,
So, okay,
sure.
how do you make that login process, which is a barrier, something that is not, gonna, cause you to go away or whatever it might be. So then it's understanding how do you have that person accomplish what they're seeking to accomplish without frustration and with delight. So what's behind that? Behind that is a great design and great engineering, which, if you think about some of the most successful products and how they got started, like if you recall, like when Google first came out, it was just a field, a box that you clicked into and just typed, and there was not much else there. But man, it was good with all that was happening behind that, right? All of that engineering that had, that had gone into it. Again, another, Silicon Valley company, but Apple as well is just known for taking out all of the complexity and making it just almost intuitive on what you're looking to do. And, they'll surprise you with things that they put in there they don't even talk about. It's just waiting for you to come across it. So in
Yeah,
the end, you do need to be empathetic to the user. What are they seeking to accomplish? You do have to test. It can't just be your, hunches about something. So testing with users in early stages is super important as well, to make sure that you're not just telling something to yourself, but you're actually getting the feedback.
Got it. Got it. That makes sense. You talked a moment earlier about, how working from home changed things in 2020. You fast forward 3 years to ChatGPT, March 2023, and how digital experiences and the expectation from customers has likely changed. Maybe we could begin by asking, from your perspective, what have you seen change in the last couple of years from talking to prospects as well as customers and clients with regards to the use of Gen AI, in their digital experiences or some of their pain points that they're trying to solve and talk to you about?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot to that. Maybe for at a higher level, do you recall the book, or have you read Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore? Did you ever come across that one?
I'm familiar with Andrew Moore, but not Jeffrey Moore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the notion of really like technology and products and how they go into the market, and then ultimately what's going to be their success or failure. And that chasm, crossing the chasm, is you have innovators, so those who are just always interested in like new things, etc. Then there are early adopters, and these are those who are interested to experiment with things and take it on themselves, but it's not really a product. It doesn't have all of like the services and support and documentation and things. So the chasm is actually where you go from early adopters to early majority. And once you cross that chasm, now you're going to start to see something really take off. And then you get late majority and laggards and those types of other, on the curve of who adopts things. So where we are right now is, we are now in that early majority stage. So there have been companies who have been experimenting with chatbots and those types of things. In fact, I was, telling this story again with some clients about how people don't necessarily want to be, driven to certain things. And in many cases, we've seen customer support, for a lot of reasons, put you into a chatbot or a conversational chat, which is not necessarily what you want to do. You want to, most times you like, get me to someone on the phone, because this is taking my time and I'm getting nowhere. So that's kind of how you go. But if you design then an experience that is, again, going to, because of the ability of generative AI, and now with all of the data, there's something new which is going to continue to grow called the semantic layer, which basically connects all this technical data and other things that exist and put it into simple business terms, so people can design experiences without having to really know data super well. So this whole ecosystem has come together now, and it's really, it's incredible when you think about the tools that we have in our hands, and what can be done with AI. And it's been around for a while, but now I think it's mainstream. So clients are looking at it, I think, in a couple ways. One is there is this generative AI notion, and there are lots of, examples of how to use that. So it could be, from a sales standpoint, I'm going to meet someone. I can go into an AI tool and find out what's all the information I need to know, what's the news that happened, what might they be interested. So that's a tool that really, can help with that. But like automation is a huge part of AI as well, right? The ability to know the context of information and data and then automatically take actions without a person having to do this. this solution's been around for a long time. You probably know this, but I mean, you can email a receipt to an email address, and it will go in and turn that whole thing into an expense item for you that you don't even have to enter anything. It knows the hotel, it knows the amount, like, so that is all automation, which is great. So there's that. And then, I mean, we could go on for a while, so I'll maybe pause there, but, it's now to the point, maybe to put a summary statement on it, it's now to the point where to remain competitive, you have to be using these, because the efficiency of companies and the speed of companies is just accelerating so fast that it's table stakes to survive.
Yeah. Table stakes meaning that implementing AI in some fashion where you can automate something or improve the customer experience in some manner is basically becoming table stakes, leveraging AI.
Yeah, it's both within and without the organization. So within, the ability to use all those AI tools for how you run your business, for how your market sensing, for all those things. If you're how all of the digital inputs that you receive, right, for those who are interacting with your company. So using it for that way to be efficient and effective. And again, speed wins. So if you can process and respond to that, that's great. But then also to what you're saying, yes, we all have expectations when we're digitally engaging with a company for it to be at the highest level of what kind of like the others have put into their product or service, and we just expect that. There is kind of this interesting notion, and at Livefront we focus on this, whereby if you look at, the device, right? Android, iOS, those companies who have those, they invest billions and billions into it, right? To create all of these capabilities. And there are like native patterns that people just expect. So in other words, if you're going to click on a calendar, you want that calendar to be how it was when you were setting up the calendar, for dinner with your, wife or whatever else, the soccer game, what you're putting on there. But if you're designing more like for the web or mobile web, that might be a different experience. So this is something that clients have to think about as well. And then what are the AI tools that is provided by those platforms versus what is the AI that you can bring to complement what's there?
Got it. You mentioned platform. I think in the intro, we talked about, or you mentioned about mobile applications versus, say, desktop, applications. Is that an area where Livefront focuses more on in terms of mobile applications, or is it just one of the other many offerings?
It's both,
Okay.
and more. Like we've worked on experiences on like the TV, because there's an operating system that exists there as well as other devices that exist. I think it's just the mobile device is just so pervasive and it's always with us. Now it is limited in terms of the space and what you could do, but again, like those things are changing on how you interact with those things. So no, I mean a great website access from a desktop, particularly this might be more so business users who are at a screen perhaps a little bit more versus someone on the go. So it's not an either or. It's just whatever modality that person is in is kind of what affects it. I'll add one other thing, which is kind of I heard a funny story from a colleague.
Sure.
And they were, which goes to actually offline, and they were at a like pharmacy, type of situation, and, waiting in line. And there was the need to like have the application with your information, et cetera. And there's like a QR code, that's there, and you have to take the photo, and then you got to click the thing and, do all that type of stuff. Right. And, standing there, and others are standing there and working on maybe asking a question, et cetera. And then the other person came up with no phone, no nothing, and just owing to that was able to go right to the window and just get help because there was no device available. So in all of this, we have to remember that we all love human connections. All is too strong of a word, but the human connection, everything, is always better than digital, to the extent that it's, not, if it's trying to replace something. It's why we get together. That said, you're where you are, I'm where I am, and we're having this conversation too. So again, it's not either or, but it's recognizing there is a human behind everything.
Yeah, makes sense. You talked about dealing with customers and sort of listening to their pain points and how AI could be helpful here. And you talked about the expense report automation. I heard a speaker a couple of weeks ago saying, when you're evaluating the ROI with regards to a AI investment, perhaps the way to look at that is not necessarily whether the AI itself will provide the ROI, but rather is the underlying data in which you will attach and leverage that data for which the AI will read and produce the output from, is maybe something that should be focused on first. That is, should you look at where are your areas within the company where the data is clean and the likelihood of AI being very effective there is the outcome will be better, as opposed to just applying it, in an environment where the data may not be as hygienic. Is that something that you've run across or have any discussions with your clients about the situation or status of their data and how effective AI could be on top of that?
Indeed. Yeah. And I mean, it's how many hundreds of billions are spent on data because it is a challenge, because, there's so-called structured data versus unstructured data. And then like structured data, you're setting it up, you can put it in rows and columns and kind of, name it and know what it is. Unstructured data is, any content that's coming in that has to be assessed to figure out what is this that I'm hearing, like, sentiment analysis. There's software now that can look at like data that's coming in from chats or posts or whatever and use that, right? But then that is more of a judgment call in terms of, how does this get categorized? How do we use that type of data? But I think, again, there's like tremendous development in the last 10, 15 years, and even in recent years as well, but in that ability to handle data. I think the question still goes back to, though, what is the experience you're looking to create? What is it that this person is trying to accomplish in engaging with you digitally? And then that does drive the data. Now, it can go the other way, which is, hey, we have this data, I don't know, rewards. What is my points? How can I use them? So taking your data and presenting it forward as well to the client where they didn't ask for it, but it just shows up, that can delight as well. So it's always kind of looking at it from both directions, but clearly having control and understanding and use of your data, has been fundamental from, the start of computers, really.
So we've been talking about a lot of different things, especially about product and customers and being on the cutting edge of technology and process when you advise clients. So how do you keep aware of what's cutting edge and and also advise your clients as to what is, cutting edge, and really keeping the competitive edge, with competitors.
Yeah.
Maybe you could describe your approach to advising clients, and maybe your own personal approach to thinking about about this.
Sounds good. Let's see. The What that reminds me of is there's what's called the law of competitive selling, which is instead of focusing on your competitors and their features or capabilities or whatever, if you simply focus on your client and what their needs are, and then see how you might be able to fulfill those needs, that's how you will remain competitive versus looking across. And I think that relates then to our clients as well. Is it goes back to so to remain competitive, you certainly have to be curious about what are the innovations and what are the things happening in the market. And that's where clients come to us to let them know about, hey, how about this? Or we come to them with points of view, right, on what that looks like. In this case, so there's that notion of competitors in what you do there, and being competitive actually comes from serving your clients. So the most fundamental thing, which hasn't changed even with AI tools, it is just another tool, super powerful. It's going to change the world. It has changed the world, and it will continue to change the world. But it is still just a tool. And then it's like, okay, to what end is that tool going to be used? In that case, it's exciting because you can create much better experiences for your clients by using the technology. And we went, back to it as well. So this could be with that ability to delight someone because of your ability to handle data and then to present data and have them interact with data, and using AI as the background kind of on all those steps in the process can really, make that happen. So I think it's from everyone involved. It's just that curiosity to learn and see what's possible, but it's not if being on the cutting edge is important to you for some reason, and you like have that as part of the DNA of your company, and you want to lead in the way and be first to do certain things, then that's great. And there's always new ways of doing something with technology. But if it's more, we want to serve our clients best. And then we're talking about, we're not going to get into this here, but we're also talking about how do you scale things, right? When you're talking about millions or billions or trillions of whatever it may be, experiences or data. So how do you do that? The whole notion of privacy and those types of things come into it as well. So we talk about all those types of things. And then for everyone too, it's the build versus buy. And I just had, a conversation with a client recently about that, where they're trying to evaluate, is this something where we build it ourselves and then we maintain it ourselves? Or do we go off the shelf because there's going to be that type of support that's there? So it's a two-way conversation, and it's that curiosity to see, back to what I said earlier, is there a better way in which we could do this?
Got it. Makes sense. We've spent some great time together so far, Ed, and I think what I'd like to kind of close with is one question. But before I ask that, I just want to remind the audience that if you like this content, please like and share it on the reporting norms. So let me ask you the final question here, Ed, and that is, through your decades of experience, if you look back on your experience, starting at PwC, through all of your experiences at IBM, Scient, Slalom, now at Livefront, can you share one thing or a person or some experience that you had that shaped your career or affected it in a very positive way that you could share with with our
Yeah.
audience?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Please.
Certainly, what comes to mind, you mentioned him at the start. So my dad, ETK3, he was a big influence in my life, and then my career as well, in terms of really suggesting accounting to me as a field to get into, because from his perspective, you're guaranteed to get a job and it's going to be stable, and you're going to be able to, not worry about that aspect of your life, at least for a bit of time, because everyone needs an audit or, accounting services, whatever. So that was kind of a play it safe move a little bit, but there was more. He supported me through these other transitions to what I'm, ultimately doing now, and a belief in, like going after what you're interested in as well, and playing to your strengths. And I think, that is something that I learned as well from him. If I think back though about all the different industries, domains, etc., and the people who have either been my, manager, or CEO leader, or if it's those who've worked for me, or those that have worked, just kind of omnidirectional relationships, because you learn from all of them. I think what I've tried to do over time, there's something that's called the DISC profile. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's kind of a common personality trait, and there's the dominant, the influencer, the steady, and the conscientious. And I think it's what I've tried to do is take pieces of all of those, where I've seen people model those just in how they operate. Um, my dad could be a D, so I didn't want to be a D all the time because that's not the great thing. My mom is more like the conscientious thinking, others more empathetic about these certain things, and then certainly analytical. You're analytical as well. Learn things from you in that regard. And then, there's great influencers now, as they're called. It's an actual label, an influencer, right? You're one perhaps
Yeah.
right now, but,
I don't know.
but so I've been, to bring it back to that word, influencers. I try and influence. That's probably my most dominant thing that I do, because I'm talking to people and, about what they can do. So I think, the influences on my life certainly has been my parents, but then really everyone with whom I've worked, who's helped kind of build out that, hopefully, a balanced ability to work with people and kind of meet them where they are and understand them where they are as well, and use that as a way to effectively communicate and get things done.
I see. I like that. Now, can you define DISC again?
Yes. So it's 4 personality profiles. And I'll add one other thing. Few people are just all of one, right? You're some percent. So you might be 90 this and 5 that and 5 that, or you try and be as balanced as possible, I think, or at least be able to flex those muscles. So D is for dominance. You tend to be assertive. You're talking about results. Influence, this is where you're looking to persuade. And then steady is like dependable, keeping the trains running on time, that type of thing.
Sure.
And then conscientious is that analytical, organized thinking about, kind of the impact of change, or what those things might be, and how do we, if we're going to make a change, how do we get back to status quo so everything can run well?
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. I always learn something, when I have these sessions.
Great.
So thank you very much for your time, Ed. And you're ETK4. Your father was ETK3. ETK5. Your son recently got married, so
Indeed.
congratulations there.
Amazing.
And possibly ETK6 on the way, at some point in the future.
Yes, although it has been discussed and hypothetically, but when they were engaged, of course, they'd love to have kids, and if it is a boy, they have indicated he will be the sixth, but he may go by the name Ted or Teddy, not Ed.
Okay, all right, very good.
Yeah.
As we close, Eddie, any parting words, any last thoughts that you'd like to leave our audience with?
Well, first, let me thank you, Norm, or Norman, as I call you, or Norman San, or Norman Sama in some cases. But
Thank you.
I appreciate you inviting me to this. I appreciate you stepping out and doing this as well, because not everyone does this, and you're building something from the start. So, congrats to you on that. And then I think. What I would just say is I enjoyed this conversation because it's an opportunity to kind of look at where we are in some ways and what's worked in terms of how do you, from a consulting standpoint, work with clients and companies and build things together that they're not able to do on their own. As you mentioned, AI is a big thing. It's going to change. And I think, I'll just go back to, I know there's a lot of fear of AI, and that may be well placed in some way, but there's also tremendous opportunity. And I felt like we've had those types of inflection points previously as well. And as long as, we're using these things for the sake of, generosity and making things better versus, greed or whatever other negative things, there's so much amazing future with AI and how it's going to help us, but it requires people stepping into the areas that matter beyond, hey, can we do this? How should we do this is an important question to ask as well.
That's a great point. That's a great point, Ed. Well, thank you very much for your time, Ed, and to our audience. Until next time, stay transparent.
Love it. Thanks, Norman.
Bye-bye.